everybody. Welcome to Stepping Into Your Leadership. I'm your host, Christine Courtney, and I'm very excited today to have a brand new guest in our studio, Elizabeth Rosenberg. And let me tell you a little bit about Elizabeth, and then we're going to take a deep dive into what she's got going on. So Elizabeth Rosenberg is a serial entrepreneur and the founder of two platforms, The Good Advice Company, a marketing and communications consultancy specializing in C-suite personal branding, thought leadership, and PR strategy, and Chief Spiritual Officer, a leadership development movement helping executives cultivate intuitive intelligence as a competitive advantage in an AI-driven world. A recognized speaker, educator, and connector, Elizabeth addresses PR, personal branding, burnout, and intuitive leadership. And she also leads a global executive women's collective. As if that isn't all enough, she is lucky enough to be based in Los Angeles. So today we are coast to coast from New York all the way to LA. So welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you for having me. It sounds like it's so much when it's all together, you know?
It's nice. You deserve it. You earned it. But before we jump in, I had a bunch of questions that I have for you. But the first thing I've got to know is I need you to tell me a little more about what you define as intuitive leadership, because that stuck out at me right away. And I'm sure some of our listeners are like, oh, I haven't heard it said that way before. Right. So
yeah. Well, when you break it down, it's really leading by that feeling and that knowing than just accepting all of the data as fact. So I think that there is a place for data, and we are in a timeline right now and I think era of data. But I also think that because we become so dependent on it, we are actually losing some of our natural intuition. And that is the thing that we as a species, it was the gift that we were given to make sure that we weren't eaten by predators or that we were protected by the weather. And it's a muscle that we just are not using right now. And I want us to lean more into it.
interesting. So when you work with folks, you're really looking at like those C-suite folks or all levels. Like what are you finding?
It really started as something that I was doing for mostly C-suite leaders. I think that's when I left my advertising job in 2020, I really leaned into kind of all of the people that I'd worked with there. And then I was also a member of Chief, so it was all the ladies that were there. And as my business has evolved, it's definitely evolved into, I think, middle managers, also just people who are looking for some kind of extra guidance right now. I'm not a coach per se, but I definitely am an educator. And I think that that's really important. So I do both one-on-one work and kind of group workshops.
Yeah. Okay, great. I've not, I don't know if it's something, I've not heard that term before out here. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's more a West Coast thing or that's an Elizabeth thing.
It might be. That's a great question. And it might actually be a little bit of both. I think Los Angeles tends to be very into the Eastern, Western, just leaning into all of the things. I mean, it's very rare to find somebody in Los Angeles who hasn't done plant medicine or been to a sauna bath or gone on a wellness retreat. And when we bring those things to New York, I think it is a little jarring. But even last year last September, myself and my business partner did a workshop at the Fast Company Innovation Festival that was all about intuitive intelligence. And we brought crystal pendulums and we brought tarot, and we brought energy. And we were told that we were the first session to sell out. And it was a 90-minute session. And there was even a man who came up to us and he was like, I came here to prove my wife wrong, to go home and be like, we are not into this. And he's like, I'm going to have to go home and apologize. He's like, I can't believe that all this stuff worked.
Yes.
And it's just this it's this opportunity to let go of all of the things that people tell us is this is the way that we have to do things all the time, and just giving us a chance to think a little bit differently about how to approach something. And I think as we're leaning into this very AI-driven world where we put in a question and we get an answer, everyone is accepting that answer as fact. And it's
True.
We all have so much institutional knowledge and wisdom of not only the work that we've been in, but the lives that we've led. And we need to figure out a way to combine those two things together, where we actually have a creative collaborator when we're using intuition and AI, than just this is the end all be all answer for everything. I refuse to accept that.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it. And I love that idea of focusing on what is your intuition telling you and cultivating that in all levels. I mean, even I was in a session the other day with a bunch of new managers at a financial institution here in New York, and it was fascinating because we just did a moment where I asked them to close their eyes and breathe in a few times and just like a mini meditation, and the amount of like space in the room, like, just the breath when everybody just relaxed a little,
Yeah.
it was palpable, the difference. And I thought to myself, oh, it's so interesting. I haven't really done that with them before. Like we're so tight on time. We don't have that much time. We got to get right to what we're trying to teach. And it was just such a nice moment where you could see their shoulders go down a little.
Yeah.
Everybody just kind of, how do I get in touch with me a little bit?
Well, and I think it gives us an opportunity to get off our phones and
Mm,
to kind of stop listening to the voice that's around us and start listening to your internal voice and trusting it a little bit more. I mean, we use it to know, like, don't walk down that alley at night, right?
right.
So why are we not using it when it's like, "Ooh, this client feels like this is not the best opportunity, or this decision feels like it might be a better one when it's coming to like hiring practices?" I mean, we used to do that all the time and we're not anymore. And I just want us to kind of figure out a way to get back there. And the best thing about kind of any intuitive practice is you're not on your phone. You actually have to like let go of
Yeah.
all of that and reconnect with who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. All right, so let's jump in. I have some other questions when I was learning more about you, and I was wondering, I love stories, and I especially love stories when we learn from them because can you share a moment early maybe in your entrepreneurial journey when you gave advice, or maybe you followed your own instinct and maybe it backfired, or you didn't follow your instinct, whatever it was? What did that teach you about the difference between kind of, you're in the good advice company, right? So there must be times when that
When
advice
I'm giving
hasn't
bad
been so
advice.
good.
I mean,
I'm
I
not
think we,
asking you to, it's not
I
very
know.
good for your business to say, here's my bad advice. But
Well, I would actually go back even further than that. I think I was very I like just mouthed off a lot in my younger years. I know that there's this idea that we really need to like kind of listen when you first get into a company, and you really need to kind of embrace not only how that company works, but how they make decisions and what their aptitude for risk is and or creative ideas. And I think as a young woman in corporate America, I was really straining and really wanting to be heard within a and I've talked about this online, but like people are always shocked when I say this, but I had been both fired and laid off within like an 18-month period. And I was like an overachiever all through, growing up, all through college, all through high school, all through jobs. And man, is that humbling. But what it did was really kind of like get me back in check, figure out what I really love to do. And then also like the best way to approach a situation where I am learning and also like putting things into action. So, and I know it doesn't sound great for me to say like, you guys listen more, but I have found that that has been the one thing that actually like really saved me. But I also feel very strongly, especially as a lot of people are getting laid off right now and or hating their jobs and looking for something new. Without that having happened to me, I would have never been an entrepreneur. I would have never had the opportunity to actually and or like I was pushed out of the nest to really like figure out how to make money and do the things that I love to do. I mean, I had an Etsy shop, I was nannying, I was freelancing, like all at the same time. And I was like, I refuse to move home. Like I will figure this out. And I did, you know?
now I have to know what your Etsy shop was.
Oh my God, it was that's another great question. This is funny. They were door hangers. So like I would go to, I know, I'm like a very crafty person. And I have been in 17 weddings.
Oh my
And
God.
I know I'm also like a professional bridesmaid. And I've also got a lot of godchildren. It's just like I've
That's
got a lot of
another
friends.
podcast.
It's a whole other thing. But every time I'd go to a wedding, they're like finding the bride's room would be like impossible. So I made these like really beautiful door hangers.
Really?
Yeah, I made zero money because I think I spent all the money on making them. But it was like such a nice creative outlet. And that's one of the things I tell people all the time. I'm like, if you don't know what to do, do something that is at least going to bring you some joy. Like, get your hands dirty, right? Like, make something, and then that will spark something else.
Yeah,
So,
you're
yeah,
you're a maker. You're a builder. I
I
can see it.
am.
Like,
Yeah.
some people are that way. You see it immediately. Like if you walk into a room and there's people like you that are builders, or if there's like something on the table like a Lego or craft project stuff, they immediately are going for it no matter what's going on and the purpose of the meeting. It's so great to see.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so now what's with that, I think it's interesting when you talked about intuition, right? Because there is that pull, or that I find, especially as people are learning to lead. And I would say that that's almost forever, right? But
Yeah.
there is that pull between trust your intuition and trust the data. Was there a time maybe where you leaned too hard one way or another and paid for it? Or like, where did you learn that lesson? Or have you seen somebody else learn that in some way?
Probably learned that lesson the best in when I burned out. So, like, my intuition was telling me, like, you need to take a break, you need to slow down. And it wasn't, I think that people naturally think that when you're burning out, you hate your job, and that you're at this place where you're just like, you just kind of want to, say F it all. And that's just not where I was. I actually loved my job. I was just working way too hard. And my body kept telling me, it was giving me all of those hints that like something is going to happen. And I ended up having an episode where I had a migraine where I lost all my motor skills, drove myself to the hospital. I ended up collapsing in the hospital. I actually wrote a story about it in Business Insider a few years ago that went viral. And it was so crazy because I just kept thinking, like, it was such a scary story to tell because I didn't want anybody to think that I was weak, yet it was one of the most relatable things. And again, like, ironically, what happened is that led me to really helping other people with their personal brand. So to me, like, every little thing has been kind of a stepping stone to whatever is next. But I look back and I wish I had listened to myself a little bit better because it was a very scary experience. I mean, like, I thought I had a stroke, and I mean, it's a funny story if you go back and read it. I mean, like, I couldn't talk, and I like called my mom from like what like a regular person does when they're 35 and they're burning out and they're like freaking out. They call their mom on their way to the hospital. But yeah, it was scary. And I think a lot of people are dealing with that right now of just like, we're just going, and we are not listening to those little signs that people are like that our bodies are telling us.
So when you say you wish that you would have listened to it more, what does that
Yeah.
look like? Because I think there's people out there that might be seeing some of those early warning signs that
Yeah.
can maybe do something now that won't make you get to the point where you're driving to the hospital calling your mom?
I mean, to be honest, like, I think everyone is going to burn out at some point because everyone's burnout looks different.
You think
And
everybody's going to burn out?
I do. I feel very strongly that everyone will have some kind of like burnout episode because it's not like somebody's like, this is what burnout looks like. Everyone's burnout looks different. And it's just like everyone's recovery looks different. Some people can take a weekend off and they have recovered. Some people need 6 months to actually like physically recover from whatever it is they're experiencing. And then I think a lot of burnout is also like very hidden in actual physical issues that your doctor then says like, well, this is your problem, but it was actually burnout that it had driven you there. So yeah. So I don't, if you're experiencing it now, to be honest, I think the best thing you could do is make sure that you have like an accountability partner and somebody that can like kind of call you out on it and say like, I see this coming, like you need to keep an eye on this, but also try to combat it in any way that you can. The best way to combat burnout is to get off your phone. And it's just get off your phone, go out to dinner with your friends, connect with community, go outside, exercise. Like, it's the stuff that like everyone tells us. And then you're like, duh, I wish I would have done that. And I know that there's people listening right now that are like, well, I don't have time for that, or I don't have the budget for that. And I totally get that too. So like my burnout recovery was definitely came from a place of, I would say, like, I had the funds and I had the time to actually be able to recover. It came from a place of privilege, which I know not everybody has.
But everybody can put their phone down and go for a
Yeah.
walk.
And go for a walk. No, I mean, and I think that's just like a good place to start. I mean, like, I think social media is one of the best things to get off of when you really start to feel yourself burning out, because it is the thing that like drives that dopamine and sucks you in fast.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I think here, in New York, I always say, you can really tell, like, boy, once it's a beautiful day, like it's sunny today,
Yes.
if you're watching it, it's sunny, immediately like whole attitudes change, right? Even if it's a little bit nippy here, it's a little cold, but it's still sunny. But when
Yes.
it's those gray, dark days, oh my God, everybody just feels so exhausted and tired. It's really interesting what a difference that can make.
A gazillion percent. Yes. And I also think like finding whatever it is that just kind of like helps you escape a little bit. Like I started reading a lot more during the pandemic and now I read every night before I go to bed. And I have just found that like when my phone's not in my room and I just have something to escape to, it has completely changed my kind of my mental attitude and my
So you're
emotional attitude.
like reading, not even like listening, reading. You're reading like books.
I'm reading books. Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
there's so
it's
many good books
back.
out. Oh my god, it's amazing. I was an English major, which I think helps, but I also think,
It's
like, for
great.
people who are commuting, listening to books is the same thing. Allow yourself that chance to just kinda, like, escape in somebody else's world. It's just
Yeah,
kinda
not
fun to
just the
see their
news, right?
yeah, well,
Yeah,
exactly,
I
yeah,
love it.
yeah,
So, yeah, you work closely with a lot of C-suite leaders on their personal brand and
yeah,
visibility, right? So, has there been any sort of, first of all, what does that look like? I think that would be an interesting thing for people to know
yeah,
if they don't know that already. And then maybe just, what you've learned in that process, whether from some great leaders, because the thing is, when you're around C-suite leaders, you learn, right? You learn one way or another. Maybe something that you learned really that was a great learning thing, and then maybe something that was challenging. But what is that like? First of all, what
yeah.
does that look like, that service?
Well, my kind of proprietary program is a little bit different than most people. A lot of personal branding kind of consultants are either coaches or PR people. I'm also an intuitive medium. So I do something called I read the Akashic Records, which is like a library of your past, present, future. I think it's why I feel so passionate about like harnessing our intuition. So I do a reading for you, then I do your behavioral analytics. So within the first two sessions, I know everything about you pretty much. Like I know a lot about you. My third session is a homework session and I really interview you. It could be 2 to 2.5 hours long. And we really like dive into kind of your origin story, where you came from, where you want to go, why you're coming to see me in the first place. And then we put together what your authentic brand is. I think we're living in this world right now where everybody is creating a brand that they think everyone wants them to be. Influencers have really like cornered the market on this one. And LinkedIn too, to be honest. I mean, it's like it's gotten a little crazy over there too. But it is exhausting to be that person. Like you always then have to kind of like fake it in order to continue to be that person. And when you are your authentic self, that's the thing that is actually like attracting the people that you want to be around and the people that you want to work with. As a PR person, I'm always going to tell you, like, let's figure out a way to make this like the most, I think, digestible for the masses. Like, I'm not going to run around, I think, always leading with the fact that I'm an intuitive medium, because corporate America is not 100% on board with that yet, but I'm also not going to hide who it is, like who I am either. And I think working with all of these people, I have found that the story that they think is the least interesting is actually the most interesting. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's the one
that's
that like,
interesting.
it's their story about sobriety. It's their story about, like their childhood and how that drove them to be who they are today. It's their story about like that big pivotal moment that changed everything, whatever that might look like. And they're always like, yeah, but I don't want to talk about that. Or I don't think that anyone's going to be interested in that. And that's the one that's always relatable and interesting that you can then build your brand on. Building an authentic brand has a lot to do with your own vulnerability and transparency too.
And must be interesting for those folks to have a partner in you to be able to, because I think sometimes people feel inhibited about like, oh, no one wants to hear this, or they don't want to hear my story, or this is not what it's about. It's about whatever my product is or my service or whatever. And I think what a wonderful thing to be able to have a partner that
Yeah.
can kind of indulge all of that in you, and then kind of be a curator of like, okay, this little nugget here, this is interesting, because it's so much easier to hear it in somebody else than to see it in yourself.
You can't. I mean, I didn't even write my own bio, if that helps everyone. Like
Yeah,
I always
really.
no. I'm like I always have like another person. I'm like, it is so hard to write about yourself and to kind of own what that thing is, because you're always going to second guess it. So that's where you actually need some outside guidance and just some like feedback. But you also, I mean, I think my greatest gift to my clients is giving them permission to do the thing that they've always wanted to do. They've just felt too scared to do it, or that it wasn't relevant or important at the time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I used to be an actor years ago, and I think some of the worst probably advice that I ever got or worst training in acting school was this idea that you had to be kind of a generalist of acting, right? Like you
Yeah.
wanted to be able to do any part. So if you were an ingenue, which we all were, but then, you had to be able to do Shakespeare to Moliere, to some current modern comedies, to Sam Shepard, some series, whatever it was, you had to be like a blank palette, right? And so I think so much of my training was getting all the things out of me that made me interesting at all. And
Yes.
then after I came to New York and was working with a lot of people, it was fascinating to me because the people that made it, and I mean, I have some friends who are very, very successful in that business, are not that at all. They were
Exactly.
exactly who they were and never changed. And then casting directors saw them and were like, "Oh my God, that's you. You're this." And I always think, oh, that's if I could go back again. Not that I want to be an actor, so it all worked out. But the reality is that that's somehow even in that world, it's being more you. It's not to
We
say you
can't,
can't do other things, but
no, and we can't be everything to everyone. It's exhausting. Again, that's like you go back to burnout. That's, you know what I mean? So it's like actually leaning into the skills and the gifts that have really like made you who you are actually the things that are most interesting and are going to be the most interesting as we get into a much more AI driven world. Yeah.
yeah, because AI sounds all the same, so it's
Yeah.
tricky.
It's wild.
How are you making that? And everybody feels like, oh, that sounds good. So I'm gonna be like, I'll put that down. But then it's like, but where are you in this? So I think you're absolutely right. We're in the middle of it, of the muck a little bit right now. And those folks that can make that transition, it's gonna be huge. So
Yeah.
anything that you learned from some leaders, but you don't have to name them by name, but anybody specifically that you learned, good or bad, from some of those, one of the or two of those C-suite leaders that you had worked with?
Yes, I think the people who are trying to build the brand that everybody wants them to be, and then are trying to be that influencer, are the ones that are the least successful because it exactly to your point, it just sounds like everyone else. And that forcedness is something that people don't want to work for or with, right? It's just, that's not interesting. The people who I think have been the most vulnerable are the ones that have the most I think authentic and like true following. So I just want to like remind everybody on here, like the followers that you see on someone's site or on their page normally are not real, especially if they are extremely exaggerated. And the engagement now too, especially if you're looking at something like LinkedIn, is like wild. Like it is so, the algorithm is really only feeding us the exact thing that it thinks we want to see versus what it used to be is actually, organic growth and like showing you showing you to an audience that you'd actually, really resonate with. So I don't know where it's all going to go,
I know.
but the thing that I always learn most from the best leaders is like people by people. So if you're a shitty person, it's going to catch up with you. If you're a good person, people are going to talk about that. And that also I think is going to drive your own growth. So deep
I
down, we
love
know who
that.
you are, you
I
know?
love that. No, this and you know what's so fascinating? Like, don't wait till you're in the C-suite. Like to
No.
me, you start now. You start figuring this stuff out now, so that people know exactly where you're going to be. You know what I mean? Like, who are you now?
And if you're a middle manager, I just want to like, I want to recognize how hard it is to manage people, especially manage people now in a time where people are taking care of parents, they're taking care of kids, they're all super stressed out. The world feels like it's blowing up around us. Like not having grace for just the basics, but really acknowledging sometimes where you know how to manage people and then you don't know how to manage people. Like a lot of people are not taught how to manage people. So they're going to mess that up a lot. So we're all doing this together the best we can. But I was not a great people manager for a really long time until somebody taught me how to manage people. And I'm a great people person. There's a huge difference between being a great people person and being a good manager. So I just think that there's like some reality around that too, of acceptance, you know?
That's a great point, because oftentimes people assume if you're a great people person, you're going to be a great manager.
Yeah.
And then they don't give you a lot of times the tools or the classes to help you. That's what I find in the folks that are in our programs.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, because let's get to some, people love the actionable tips, and you've given us a couple of good ones already. One, I know I'm going to, put the phone down, try to like have some time away from that.
Yep.
But, let's look at some of those folks out there, maybe a leader who's not really thought about their personal brand before. What's the single first thing that they should do this week to start maybe building visibility or credibility in whatever space they're in?
Especially for somebody who is either working and or looking for a job, think about your LinkedIn page as if it is your own microsite. Update it. There's lots of ways that you can optimize it, but make sure that you have a header image. You have a picture that like looks good. Like there are a ton of things that you can do that will make your page interesting, because that is the kind of like foundation of your personal brand. Now, if you are someone who does not like to post, and you are someone who doesn't want to be an influencer, and you don't want to do any of those things, which to be fair, like I don't ever want to like create content for like TikTok or Instagram or anything like that. Like I think everyone hears me enough on podcasts, on LinkedIn, which are the platforms that I love the most, right? They're like, it's writing and then it's just having like really authentic conversations. But if that's not you and you don't want to be a content creator, engage. It's the easiest thing that you can do on LinkedIn. If you're looking for some kind of visibility, go ahead and start commenting and engaging on other people's posts of things that are actually interesting and relevant to you. The best advice that I can give anyone is, just because you are a thought leader does not mean we need your thoughts on everything. Like you do not need to go in and start commenting on AI and then like, environmental protections and then politics and then, the latest, soda commercial. Like we don't need your thoughts on everything. It's not helpful. That's also like really dilutes your brand. Nobody knows who we're talking about. And then the last thing is just remember that your brand is you. It's how you show up in the world, and going to events and or just going to like a dinner with your friends or showing up at a happy hour networking. As you are building your brand, think about how you want people to leave that event and leave having met you, and that impression that you want to leave with them. So to everybody, I'm like, what is it when somebody says, oh my gosh, who are you and what do you do? Which is the first question that all Americans ask always. Have a 2-sentence elevator pitch. It's like, it's that easy to just start thinking about how you want people to start talking about you when you're not in the room.
I love that. How they talk about you when you're not in the room. That's
Yeah.
great. I want to make sure that we touch on some of those topics around burnout a little bit, because you speak pretty regularly about that. What's one boundary or habit that you've seen leaders implement that actually worked? Like not just theory, but like something in practice, something very actionable that works.
As a leader, you need to, I think, show behaviors that you want other people to adopt, right? So if you're not sending email on the weekends, your team's not going to send an email on the weekends. And I think that that's the most important thing of like, when you create boundaries, you need to encourage other people to create boundaries as well. So it's literally like walking the walk. Now, if you're saying to everybody, I really want you to have boundaries, but you're shooting off all those emails on Sunday afternoon because, you want to get ahead of things, I just think that's a terrible practice, especially when you can go into Gmail and you can schedule everything.
True.
There's lots of ways around this.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did when I was at a corporate job is everybody on my team, I had a pretty large team, but I'd say the majority of them were all in therapy. Again, we're in Los Angeles, so it was like everybody really needed to, I was very proud of everybody.
It's generational too, though. So it's here.
And a lot of people on my team were all in therapy, which I thought was great. And we acknowledged this. So I also made sure that like when they were going to therapy, they were all on different times. So not everybody was out of the office at the same time. And they were all either at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. So they could leave and then kind of like mostly at the end of the day. So then they could kind of sit with that experience that they just had. But I eventually did the same thing. So I made sure that it wasn't anything that I was ever going to hold against you. Another thing that I did in the office, which was actually really helpful, is I would do a like 1 through 5, like, how's everybody feeling today? Just so if everybody came in the room and was in a bad mood, it's like, okay, I knew what I was going to get out of that meeting, right? It was like, okay, emotional check-in. How are we? 1 through 5.
You know what's funny? I was talking about a version of that, not that exact same
Yeah.
thing, but a version of that with a group of leaders not that long ago, down in South. I can't remember which city I was in, but one of the things that came out was this guy said, "Oh, I would never ask that question." And I said, "Okay, good. Get why?" And I'm thinking maybe he would say, was not specific enough, or I don't know. I was ready for some pushback, and he said, "Because what if they say they all say a bad number, like, then that would be terrible." And I'm like, well, wouldn't you want to know that? Like, wouldn't that be a good thing to see? But it was really interesting. It really scared him. Like, it was like, then I have to deal with that. And I thought,
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting. Like, the fear keeps us from acknowledging like the truth that potentially is there.
He's not wrong, by the way. And I think
Yeah.
it's really important that as a leader, especially at a larger company, that you have a conversation with your HR people and with your, about how to deal with that should somebody be dealing with something that is really heavy. Again, my team was mostly women and everybody was very comfortable having these conversations. And I had a kind of a plan should everybody show up and just not be in a great place. Now, we are also in a time, again, where like life just seems absolutely bonkers right now. So you could get to the place where it's like everyone's on the moon. It's like, okay, well, at least we acknowledge that everyone is kind of in it right now. And as a leader, I never needed to know what was going on. It wasn't like, okay, you're in a bad mood. Maybe you had a fight with your boyfriend, or maybe you are dealing with something that is really, that you're dealing with a sick parent. Like, it could be something that is, there's not, one doesn't negate the other, right? In terms of how you're showing up at work. But at least then I knew what to expect out of my team. And I never asked exactly what was going on. Okay, everyone's in a mood today. I get it. Like, this is how we're going to move forward, right? Or like, okay, so we all need to like go outside and touch grass. Like maybe we actually all go for a walk, or maybe we like have a team lunch outside where we can connect and we have no phones. So it's like, I just think there needs to be some more thought on how we're kind of connecting as a team in this kind of really insane world that we're living in. I also feel very strongly that like, and I work with another woman on the behavioral analytics part of my personal branding, and she's a talent kind of like HR fractional leader. And she and I have had that conversation about like, can you bring your full self to work? I don't know if we can, to be honest.
Interesting.
It's still work. You know what I mean? Like, it is still a place where you can and cannot do things. There's still a code of conduct. There's still a culture that we need to adhere to. So I think as a worker, you also need to find what culture feels most comfortable for you to also do the best work you can.
Interesting. So, with that idea, because I'm a big proponent of this idea of who we were, when we were growing up, has a lot to do with the things that can drive us now, And
Yeah.
so when you think back to who you were as a kid or a teenager, was there a moment or a role you played or something you were drawn to that you can now say, oh yeah, that was a preview of everything, that I am today? Is there something that you did or
I
that?
mean, there's two. So I'm a
Okay.
twin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So my sister she's in events and was always kind of the event person of the duo. And my mom always says that I was the spokesperson for the two of us. She's like, it was like inevitable that you were going to go into PR. Like there was just like, it was, or like lobbying or something. Do you know what I mean? I mean, something that just feels like very natural. She was like, that's who you are.
That's so funny.
And when I was in the 8th grade, we read Dances with Wolves. And I reached out to Kevin Costner, and he came to our school and did a like full on like talk to the whole school, like to the 7th and 8th graders about, or maybe just the 8th graders, but about Dance with Wolves, like right after he won the Academy Award. And my mom
My
was like,
God.
and like the local news came, my mom was like, oh, clearly you're going to be a publicist. Like it was just like, so my advice to everyone also is like,
That's
send
good.
that email. Like I will reach out to I'm reading The Correspondent right now, which I'm just loving. And she just like randomly messages and like will send emails and write letters to people all the time. And I do that constantly. If there's something that someone I'm inspired by, I will send them a note and just be like, I am so interested in this thing that you wrote, or I read your book. I think it's amazing. I want to be friends with you. I've done that my whole life. So
I love that.
do more of that because it's just like,
You've
how fun.
inspired me, Elizabeth. I'm going to do more. I thought of a few things I should
Great.
try because why not, right? Why not? What's the worst that could happen?
Wait, someone's going to say no
Yeah.
or not reply? Okay.
Or
Well,
not reply, which is
who
more
cares?
likely, right? Which is
Yeah,
fine. I can just assume it got lost.
exactly.
So you've built, we talked about you're a builder, right? You built a global executive women's collective, a consultancy,
Yeah.
a leadership platform. Well, first of all, what's your executive women's collective?
It's just, I honestly, it was a bunch of my clients that I was like, ooh, you should know this person and you should know this person. And finally I was like, we should maybe all just know each other and get together. So it's just this like kind of private group of women that are just so inspiring and interesting. And we meet and we make money and we talk about things that people aren't talking about. And it's like, to me, it's like the version of like men meeting on a golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in all different industries. And every day I'm inspired by these women to just be just empowered to do like all the things that we're meant to do. It's awesome. I love it. So I also really recommend, if like you don't find a group that's right for you, make your own. I know it sounds crazy, but it's just kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna I could not find a group that to me felt like what it was that I wanted. So I just made it myself. Now that is a blessing and a curse because I am a manifesting generator and I have too many ideas. And then I get myself down this like rabbit hole of like, oh my God, what am I gonna do with that now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate. All right. So you've built a executive women's collective, a consultancy, and a leadership platform. So that's a lot of building. Do you think that impulse to create and connect started back when? I mean, like when you look at your younger self, besides the PR self, did you do sports? Did you do theater? Did you do,
yes and yes,
arts and crafts? Did you do music? What did you do? Everything? You were just yes.
I did. Well, I was like a a brownie and a Girl Scout when I was little. And then I also did like summer theater.
Okay.
I played soccer for 15 years. I was on a traveling choir in high school. I did ceramics. Like I always needed some kind of like outlet. I was in a sorority in college. I was in the choir in that sorority in college. I mean, that's the problem is like I always did too much, but I am one of those people who doesn't want to just be with one group. Like I wanted to be with the athletes, but I wanted to be with the people that were singing, but I wanted to be with the funky artists. Like it's the reason I've been in so many weddings and I have so many godchildren is like, I'm like that like alchemist of who's always looking for like, who are the really interesting people who are going to do something fascinating that I want to be part of or that I want to work with them and see what we can build together. It's a total blessing and a curse because even with the things that I'm building, like chief spiritual officer, I would love for it to be a brand and I would love for it to do all these things, but I also really still love the job that I'm doing. And I am running this women's group and I still want to be the best godmother that I can be and, like be super involved and constantly be the friend that I want to and the daughter that I want to be and the sister that I want to be too. So it doesn't always serve me.
So what are you working on there?
I know. I also have like another little side project that I'm working on right now that I am so excited about. I can't talk about it yet, but I will be back when I do because it's just, I feel like it's like everything that I've ever worked on is all coming together in one thing creatively, but I can't stop. That's the thing is like, I always have another idea and I'm like, oh God, what are we doing? What's next? Like, what are we doing here? This could be interesting. Yeah. But I also just, I think the greatest gift that I have is being able to connect other people. Like I probably send 15 emails out a week of being like, oh my God, you need to meet this person. You guys are going to make money. I don't do this, but this person is the best person for you to do this. And
Connector.
And
Malcolm Gladwell talked about that. Remember in that book?
Yes.
I know somebody like that works with me. She's amazing that way.
Yeah. And if you know all these people and you know that they do great stuff and that they can do great stuff with other people, don't hoard that. You know what I mean? Like don't gatekeep that, like share that. But I also tell everybody too, get a referral agreement in place and make money off that too. My network is my IP. But I will only make a connection if I feel like it's the right fit. Yeah.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on today. It was wonderful to get to know you a little bit better and to hear about the wonderful things you're doing. And definitely we'll have you back when you can tell us your secret because, now you have everybody interested. What's next?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's great to spend a little time with you. And if If people want to get in touch with you, you can look her up. She has a website you want to tell them the best place to find you?
thegoodadvicecompany.com is the best place. And then that'll take you both to my LinkedIn, where I love to post and write and do all the things, as well as my Substack.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Thanks for spending time here on Stepping Into Your Leadership. I'd like to give a special shout out to our podcast producer, Richard Francisco. Check out our notes for any details. And if you want to get anything more out of this, go to our YouTube channel and please subscribe to Leadership Lab TV. If you heard something today, of course, that resonated with you, do something with it. It's all about the choices that you make. It's what you say in conversations, how you show up in a moment. Share this episode with someone who's maybe starting a new job or stepping into a new level of leadership, and try one idea, because it just might create some pretty powerful leadership ripple effects. Until next time, keep stepping in, because the room changes when you do.